Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Dementia, Alzheimer's, people with brain dysfunction. It's really creeping up on us. And I really was so happy that Leslie Curtis, who, as you know, is the Director of Business Development at Regents Park of Boca Raton, wrote an article, which you will read now in our June issue, if you go to page 16. It's called Don't Go It Alone If You Have a Neurological Disorder. What does that mean?
Well, I think, there are many different kinds of neurological disorders, and we discuss it in the article, but you could have a brain injury from a fall or a motor vehicle accident, things like that. Parkinson's, we're seeing a lot more Parkinson's patients. As people live longer, these chronic kind of illnesses, Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, there's so many, that people are living longer with these chronic diseases. And so finally, the society and the medical community is looking at certainly cures, but how to help people with these diseases and how to help the caregivers deal with them. Because it's not just the Alzheimer's and dementia, it's patients with chronic things like Parkinson's, which can end up with a Parkinson's dementia. But it's the physical aspect of these disease processes that are really tough on the patient, and you almost always are dealing with chronic depression with them and the caregiver.
So, Leslie, you, of course, look back in your nursing degree, and when you first started working with people in that capacity, I guess people just didn't live this long. They would have what they call senile dementia, but we weren't looking at 80 and 90-year-olds in the amount that we are now. No,
and up to 100, a little over 100. So yeah, it's a big difference, and I think it's really difficult. Like I said, especially like Alzheimer's, dementia. In the beginning, they know, that they're not remembering things, they're forgetting this and that. And there's so many new medications out for those things now that do help, but they're around for a long time. And like I said, for the caregivers, it's really, really difficult.
And of course, you at Regents Park, you care for them in different ways. Sometimes they come in short term, they have maybe a hip fracture or something, and they've had some operations that you take care of them for your outpatient, but then you have also people who live there,
right,
with this.
And and I see there's several of our residents that are there with some form of dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's, and their spouses come in like clockwork. They're there all day long, or as long as they can be, and you can see the exhaustion on them, even though they don't need to be there all the time. They are. So it's, once again, taking care of them as well as the resident.
Do you remember years ago, I know when I first started into the field of gerontology, there was a book called The 36-Hour Day. Did you ever read that? Well, when I first saw the title of the book, I said, what are they talking about? But after dealing with people and my own mother, I realized what it is. There's just no end to the day. And that's why, and the woman just before you, Colleen Haney, who is an energy therapist, was talking about you must learn how to take care of yourself.
Right. And we just started a group at Regents Park for the caregivers. We have a monthly, I don't say in-service, but meeting with a lot of the caregivers, for mostly long-term residents, and because it's so important for them to acknowledge that, A, they're not alone, maybe, get into some support groups, and to find ways to deal with being a caregiver. Because
the first thing they say is, don't leave me, and
right.
It tears at the heartstrings. That happens with my dog. My dog doesn't want me to leave when I go to work, she hides in the corner, if I say I have to go. And I hate to leave her too, but you do, there comes a point where you have to be the alpha dog.
Right.
That's kind of the way I think with your loved ones. It's, I will be back, but
right.
I will be here. But if you don't let me go, I'll not be here anymore, right?
Right. And it's hard because you watch, especially when we get a new admission that's going to be long term. The guilt for the loved ones have to go through. I mean, it's sad, and they have to. It's a process they have to go through. So, all we can do is help them through it until they feel comfortable. But and usually those are patients that have been at home for quite a while, being cared for by either a spouse or a child, and they just can't do it anymore.
Yep. It's very tough. Well, let's go into some of the other neurological disorders. One thing that you have done is you've made yourself a great center for this because you have so many therapists who are knowledgeable in this. What, you want to go through some of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic. All the conditions we've been seeing these patients in the facility for short-term and long-term care. But we've never just identified that, yes, we do take care of these patients. So we've expanded the program somewhat. The therapists are professional, and they know how to handle patients. I mean, even patients that have Alzheimer's and dementia, they get them to work, so it is amazing. And then, the education with the nursing staff and as well as the families, like I say, Parkinson's, they'll come in with an aspiration pneumonia, which is common. And as you talk to the wife or the husband and say, well, were they coughing after they ate or drank before the hospital? Yeah. Well, they were already silently aspirating. But, because they're not educated, they're not looking for it. And with the healthcare system the way it is now, they're not being educated as to this is what you need to be looking for.
So this is what you're going to be doing.
Right. So we can focus with the family and the patient on the different things that they need to be looking for, with all these processes, MS, the different things that they should be looking for. Extreme heat, extreme cold, it does affect them. And then head injuries, usually the ones we see are going to be the strokes, things like that certainly in a day change somebody's life forever.
The people you see who have had strokes, they don't necessarily have dementia.
No.
They could have it, and it
could.
Depends, but that's not one of the problems. So you just have someone who's dealing with that stroke, and I call them victors. Once they're out of the hospital, I don't say they're victims anymore. But I think you have such a variety of people who need help. But the worst, let me just tell you something that happened last Saturday morning. We had, and she was a friend of mine. She is a friend of mine. She has early Alzheimer's. She's in her, I don't think she's even 50 yet. But she was caring for her father. And she actually, and she doesn't mind, that's her mission now, to talk to people about what it feels like to have early Alzheimer's and what she's doing. She's begging people to get into clinical trials. If you have any history of your family member, that's what she wants you to do. Her name is Dottie Carson, and she says, tell everybody. And she's one of the people who started the Alzheimer's walks throughout South Florida. And she started having a problem where she couldn't put some things together in her mind. And then she went for, clinical, she actually went for diagnosis, and they found out that she does have the beginning stages, and she made a very big speech over at the Alzheimer's conference a few months ago. And I really admire her because she's now, and when she was on the radio, I said, don't you want to come in? No, I can do it on the radio. And she has her notes, and she does a great job. There's some things that she speaks very well, but she can't remember to write the things.
Right. Well, and those are compensatory strategies that, people can learn. People might remember that they have to lock the door, but might not remember to lock the door. Or so they make little notes for themselves. On the way out the door, here's your notice to remember to lock the door.
I do that all. Listen.
Turn off the stove.
I do that myself. I was roasting a turkey before I came, and I put a note because I knew I better turn it off before I left.
Right.
Because we have so much on our mind.
So those are, different strategies for people that may have some cognitive impairment. It doesn't matter why, because when it boils down to it, if you can't remember something or, you can self-help, and
Yes.
therapists teach you how to do that, and work with the families as well. MS, if they're around for a long time with MS, often you will find some cognitive issues, certainly depression, which, depression can mask in many ways. So you could think somebody's, got dementia or this, and it's really, they've got a lot of depression going on that's masking certain things, or, maybe the dementia, and they don't even look at the fact that the patient's really, really, really depressed. So
interesting you should mention that, because just bringing up my mother, I remember I brought someone in who was a psychiatrist into our home to be able to talk to her. And the first thing he asked her, "Are you depressed?" And I never thought my mother was depressed, and she said yes. And I couldn't believe this. I mean, it was like, what? Why is my mother? Of course, my mother's, now had some dementia and all, but she told him that she was depressed, and I couldn't understand that. But that's not something we really think about older people, and apparently many of them are depressed.
Oh, a large percentage of them are depressed. And, they come in, maybe they had a fall. They're totally with it. But then as you talk to them, you find out what's going on in their life. The kids live up north or whatever it is. They're depressed. And now you've got the situational depression on top because they've got a fractured hip or for whatever reason they're in there. So, a lot of them are. And you're right. You just have to ask the question.
Yeah, right.
They'll answer.
Yeah, they will. If they, well, it's true. And I just never thought to ask the question, but that's okay. I want to talk a little bit about Regents Park, because it's hard to be depressed when you're at Regents Park, actually. I think it all helps the environment. We were hearing about prisons lately and people who are locked up in prisons, which is, you can't even fathom that. But you think about this, and I'll just move a little bit to the side of that. There are places where people live. It's not that they're like prisons, but they don't have a lot of outside looking out or looking in, and it's a lot of walls, and I would say that couldn't be very good for a human being. Would you think that?
No, I think environment is extremely important. It really is. I mean, you can imagine, the walls that are brick or, block, cement block, and they're just painted and there's no pictures, or you look out the window at a parking lot, that's not a cheerful environment.
No, and that's what sets off, I think, Regents Park so much, because the windows are everywhere, the water's everywhere, the landscape's everywhere, and so even if someone maybe is depressed of some sort, at least this helps. They can see birds, or they can see squirrels, or they can see some things happening.
Right. And there's all kinds of wildlife there. I mean, it really is a lot of birds.
No alligators in the water.
No alligators that I've seen. My hawk was back this morning.
You have a hawk?
Well, we had saved a hawk, and the wildlife center came and picked it up. And then it was about a month, because he was injured. They came and released it right there at Regents Park. So we got a lot of the residents out there to watch this release. If you blinked, you missed it. That thing shot out of the carrier that they had it in. Yeah. But and once in a while I'll look up in the trees, and I swear that's my hawk. It's not my hawk, but
It's okay.
And this morning he was splashing in a puddle.
He just couldn't leave you. Now, this is an exciting story.
Yeah,
the
I'm
hawk
sure he
doesn't want to leave Regents Park.
The
we
same
have a
hawk.
story here. We have to do some. Are you the hawk? Oh, I love it. The phone number is 561-483-9282 if you want more information. Of course, my guest is Leslie Curtis, who's the Director of Business Development at Regents Park of Boca Raton. I'm Anita Finley, and you're listening to the Boomer Times radio. And we're very excited always when Leslie comes into the show, and when we can talk about something that people kind of, they don't know much about, and they learn so much, and it makes them a better caregiver, makes them understand what they may be going through. We always talk about the caregiver, but there are a lot of people who have some dementia, and they understand things.
Yes.
They may not remember, or it may be a different area of their brain, but that's been the one problem that people haven't done. They haven't really talked to the person who is ill.
Right.
It's always the caregiver or always somebody else, and that's not a good thing.
No, because I think again, you should have psychiatry, psychology involved, so you can really determine. There's testing that can be done for these patients to see what they really do understand, comprehend. You don't see it that often with the elderly, but there is neuropsych testing and, but yeah, and again, you can ask the patient and they answer a lot. And certainly long-term memory is usually pretty intact. So it's just, once again, them remembering short-term things, like what did you eat this morning for breakfast? And they may not remember, but they'll give you an answer. Now, you just happen to know that they didn't have pancakes this morning, so you know that
that's what they wanted, but they just didn't have it.
Aren't remembering. Yeah, but again, there's compensatory things for people like that. So it really is important to know where they are, cognitively. And you can't just assume that they don't understand, because they usually do. They may not remember it, but they do understand why you're talking to them. So,
well, I know that when you walk through Regents Park of Boca Raton in the morning, I'm sure you say hello to a lot of these people.
Yeah.
They probably see you as a family member because they see you all the time, and they're not seeing their family members, many of them, all the time.
Right.
So you have a big responsibility.
Well, you do tend to become very attached to, the long-term residents. You just do. You take the time to talk to them, bring them a book, all kinds. You just kind of notice if they're not feeling well. I mean, because you see them all the time, not just once a day. You see them a lot of times a day. So
they go roaming around in their wheelchair or their walkers, or they're just walking around. And I've seen some of them helping other people. I mean, that's a very nice thing.
Yeah, we have 2 resident volunteers. They're very involved in the community.
Resident volunteers?
Yeah, they're long-term residents, and they volunteer to help other people. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. There's one gentleman, actually 2, that they like to cook their own meals, so they go to the activities room. Not every night, but they cook their own meals here and there.
I love it. I haven't heard about that. Not women, but men.
Men. Yeah.
See, the women have been cooking all their lives. They don't want to cook anymore.
That's right. Just put it in front of me, I'll eat it.
Right.
But no, they're in there, cooking dinner for themselves. Yeah.
Do they have a girlfriend that they're cooking for sometimes?
No.
Oh, well, we had to look into that, because that would be that's a waste. But yeah, that's funny that would be happening. But that means that they feel like this is their home, and that's important. Let's get into the short-term rehab, because I think that's so special, that when someone knows, especially if they've planned an operation and they then haven't really faced the fact they can't go home,
right,
or at least they shouldn't, that they should really have rehab. There are a lot of opportunities for them around. The doctor tells them who they should see. Their friend tells them where they should go. So how do you deal with this? What do you tell someone why they should come to Regents Park of Boca Raton? Let's give a little bit of press here.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that we're the best facility out there.
Why?
Because we've got great rehab. Our nursing department is extremely good. Our DON knows every patient in that building. I don't know how she does it, but if you bring up somebody, she'll know what the latest labs are. I don't know how she does it, but that's a big thing, So anybody comes up to her with a question or a concern, she can answer it right off the bat. We have support staff, in the building, customer service, people like myself, to help anybody out that needs it, whether, short-term rehab. I love it when they come in for a tour prior to their surgery, because then we have an opportunity to give them some education as to what they're going to go through in our facility, how many days they'll be in the hospital probably. And so that when they come in, they're ready. They know what to expect. So that always makes it a lot better. We have a lot of physicians that follow there, so they can pick, unless their physician follows, they have the opportunity to choose who they want to follow. We have 4 social workers to help with discharge planning. So it's, we have the people there to take care of the short-term rehab patients. They could meet with social services. They wander down to our offices, because there's a good chance that I may have been the first person they spoke to or met. So they'll come down and with questions. And we have the Guardian Angel program. So every single...
Tell us about the Guardian Angel program
every
again.
short-term rehab patient is assigned a Guardian Angel. So our task is to try to see them every day that we're there. Now, the problem sometimes is if they're really active, which a lot of them are, you can't find them. So, I've gone sometimes 4 or 5 times a day to find someone, and I finally find them in the room. They're sound asleep because they've been so busy. But that way, we can keep tabs on our page. Everybody's got a Guardian Angel. We can make sure that things are going
I'm
okay.
sure that was your idea.
No, they actually had that. They did.
It's a great
but
idea.
But it's a great program.
Yeah, that's really special. So, so if I come there, I hope I never have to come there for rehab. Sorry.
Yeah.
If I had to go somewhere, I would go there. But if I did go, and I love Chinese food, would you go out and get me Chinese food at night?
You'd
order. Right.
We'd order it, right. Yeah, we really try to accommodate. People come in on gluten-free. We get the gluten-free this and that. What's the new thing? The almond milk. It's amazing what, we do our best to get it. There's no reason we can't.
Okay, and how about DVDs for my room?
We have them, and we can certainly rent them, on request.
All right, well, how does someone watch, other than television, what are they going to see at night if they want to see a movie?
Well, they can rent the DVDs, but we also have cable. We have 52 channels. So we rarely actually have people asking to rent one because there's so many channels that they can watch. Little flat screen TVs for every patient. That's important. Yeah, they have
with earphones so that they can...
They can get the earphones, yeah. There's a refrigerator, the little refrigerators for every patient, so that their family or whoever can bring snacks in for them.
It's pretty fancy.
So we do the best we can to accommodate, people, because let's face it, they were independent before they came in.
Right.
And we want to get them back to that independence, but to make it as comfortable and as much like home as we can.
Okay, well, I want to say that Leslie Curtis, someone who everyone knows in South Florida because she has been around for quite a while. She's always trying to help people and help organizations. She's the Director of Business Development at Regents Park of Boca Raton, and you can call 561-483-9282. That's 561-483-9282, or you can go on their website, which is really beautiful. It's regentsparkboca.com, regentsparkboca.com, and you will see videos.
Yeah.
You will see lots of videos by her wonderful sister, who is a real professional and takes care of all the photography and the videos. And we're happy that Laura is around. It's great to have a sister that's right there with you, isn't it?
Yes,
Another
it is.
Professional.
It's good.
Did you get along when you were sisters when you were young?
Yeah.
You always got along with her.
Yeah, she was the big sister, bullied me around a little bit. But she always won.
Yeah. You turned out pretty well. So
yeah.
She didn't let you get in any trouble or do anything that wasn't wrong. Something I don't mention often, but I'd like to, valet parking. You have no idea how important valet parking is when you're with people.
In South Florida, any medical facility, parking is horrendous. And it would be there, too, but we do have free valet parking. So that takes care of that. But, my God, there's never enough parking because, Regents was built 30 years ago, basically all long-term, and they added 60 beds, so it wasn't as big. So trying to get a parking spot when you have, all the visitors and the staff is interesting.
I was curious, where does the valet park people?
He parks them, first of all, in the parking lot. But when that runs out, it's on the front, as you're coming in the grass.
He just runs a lot.
Yeah, he runs a lot.
I know. I've been, especially when you have parties.
Yes. You got to have valet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you planning another party soon?
It'll be the holiday party. And yes, we're starting to look at, what we want to do. Yeah. That's a lot of fun to plan and to see everybody that you don't get to see all the time.
That's for the outside people. But you have parties for your residents and people there all the time, don't you? Every holiday, usually there's something.
Yeah. every holiday there's something going on. And then, we have the live entertainment 3 times a week for mostly the long-term residents go to that, but some of the short-term residents do. We have happy hour for short-term and long-term residents once a week. So, yeah, there's always something going on. It's a quiet day if all they're doing is playing bingo. That's a quiet day. So,
well, I like bingo, actually. Maybe it's
they
my
do too.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and it's funny. We at least most people are very casual about bingo, but it requires hearing, it requires vision, it requires concentration, especially, and some of them have more than one card.
Oh yeah, and they're pretty good at it, and they've got the bigger cards, so if there's a low loss vision issues or things like that, but they that place is packed when it's bingo or Pokino.
What's Pokino? It's like poker or something?
Yeah, but it's like this big card with, like a bingo card would be, but there's pictures of cards on it. I don't know how you play Pokino, but they love that one too.
Well, it is amazing that the cruise ships, they all play bingo. Here you're on a cruise ship, and they have these big bingo contests.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, look at the bingo halls.
That's
or
it.
the churches that have bingo.
That's it. I mean, people like it. It's amazing. You can take 2 days. I mean, you just take 2 hours, really, 4 hours, and it's just gives you relaxation. You concentrate on something else. It's not bad.
No.
You and I are very busy people, but imagine if we just go off to your bingo hall or somewhere and just put it all aside, and we just get to play bingo and maybe even win some money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember years ago I used to go with my husband to the church because they always had bingo. We weren't members of the church, but they had bingo. So,
right.
So, yeah, it is a lot of fun. It really is.
And something else I think you do is you take people to events. I mean, like there are a lot of theater events. I don't know if you've taken them to the WIC yet, but you need to think about that because there's some super places that, do they have to sign up if they want to go? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on, their level of functioning. But we take them out to dinner, and they find ways. One of our residents was at the Boomer Expo last time.
Oh, yes, and it's coming up. And,
yes.
And, of course, we always love Regents Park, Boca Raton, probably the best decorated booth in the whole place. Thanks, Leslie. It's always great talking to you. As much as I think I know about Regents Park, I really never know everything. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.